This video and every other video on this channel is sponsored by me and my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. Stay tuned to the end of the video for updates on the trilogy, as well as one extra book I've got coming out this year. Immortality is a strange trope. One I obviously deal with in my Vampire Buddy Cop mystery series. But though vampires are widely known for their immortality, this trope spans everything from children's media to science fiction to action. And it raises so many questions. How do we write a character who sees the world change so often and watches so many die? How do they connect? Are they isolated? And how does this impact their outlook on the world as a whole? These are just a few of the thoughts I want to address as I go into the last book of the Blood Herring trilogy. And I decided to do it with my critique partner and fellow vampire writer, Aisling Wilder. You and I kind of met under somewhat unusual circumstances.
Yeah, we did. I'm trying to figure it out.
So for those who follow the channel, they'll know that I don't do social media anymore. But at the time we met, I was still doing Facebook. And you and I were just debating things in a chat. Realized partway through that we were very violently agreeing. What the F, we're both writing vampire stories with Irish protagonists. Like, what are the bloody chances?
And I'm in Ireland, but I lived in Oregon, just outside of Portland. So, I mean, what are the coincidences just keep getting bigger and bigger.
I've just kind of decided a long time ago, the universe decided you and I needed to meet. That was just that. End of story.
Absolutely.
How would you describe your series to a brand new reader?
The series I'm working on right now is a trilogy called The Books of Rue, and they deal with a 4,000-year-old vampire from her creation and origin story all the way to modern day, including falling in love with an angel and figuring out how to go through hell, literally.
But vampires bring up this interesting trope. I mean, we talked about a little bit in the vampire panel, and it's the idea of how immortality affects the human mind. And I think this is one of those things that some stories can oversimplify it and oversimplify the psychology that causes. And other stories, I feel like, just dramatize it to the point that you may as well be watching a soap opera with blood.
I think quite often mere mortals making these works have a hard time conceptualizing. It's a big thing. And the longer it goes on, the bigger it gets. And there's all the what ifs and the stuff around it as well. So I think it's a hard topic to really deal with in depth.
I can't wonder how much of that is us also, like you said, dealing with the fact that none of us really wants to die. But do any of us really want to live forever either? Like, I hate to get all Highlander, but...
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking of Highlander for this as well, which they're remaking, apparently, by the way.
Oh, no more remakes. People, Hollywood, there are so many stories out there. You don't have to remake the same movies. You can go rehash someone else's book, for God's fucking sake.
I mean, who wants to live forever? It's a classic question. I mean, all the way back to Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, you know, that people have been dealing with the fear of death and the what if we could escape death or sidestep death or live forever. I think probably a lot of people go, oh yeah, I want to live forever, without really thinking of the consequences. And I think the best stories dealing with immortality deal with those consequences.
Well, especially, I haven't read it yet, but I know there's been a lot of talk about the picture of Dorian Gray and how that deals with immortality in the sense of, like, your soul aging incorrectly because you're not living the way you should. Sometimes if you're living forever, you're going to think much higher of yourself than you should. You might be a bit of a know-it-all. I know my characters have that. Yours definitely. I've seen that. Like, there's just this, like, thought of, like, oh, I've been around the block longer than you. It's like, that doesn't necessarily make you smarter.
No, it doesn't. It's really funny. Like, I do try to deal with that with my main character. There's two things going on right there. Like, she's lived a very, very long time, but she's also stopped aging at the age of 27. So there's a dichotomy there. Like, she has sort of the emotional intelligence of a 27-year-old. There's actual physicality of wisdom of aging and learning how to live life after your 20s, you know. And she's never going to be able to do that. So the things she's learned are far less emotional. So she responds emotionally still like a 27-year-old.
Lily has those moments too, and I think that's one of the things you remember in book 2 where Gabe has to call her out and be like, you keep acting as though I'm dumb just because I'm younger than you. But that's not realistic, and here's why. And he has to lay it out there for her. And that kind of leads into our first movie, which is The Old Guard.
does it have to be so goddamn slow the first couple of times? You shot me. I did. I need you to get back in the car, please.
This isn't real. No, none of this is real.
You haven't figured this out yet. You can't die. Get up.
Ah! Fuck!
Can you please not do that again?
Who are you?
I lead a group of immortals. An army, I guess. Soldiers, fighters like you. Look. You've got questions, kid. I get it. You want answers? Get back in the car.
A band of immortals going around solving problems. Now, this particular band of immortals go around solving them violently. Like, would you keep doing that if you were thousands of years old? Would you find a better way of dealing with stuff? You know?
Right. Or would it become
one-
habit and it's all you know? Who knows?
Exactly. And in this, I think they had the history of the character have a very violent mortal life. So it's interesting. What do immortals do?
Yeah.
What do immortals do? What do you do if you live forever? You cannot be killed. I think they can die and come back to life over and over again. I think that was in the film.
Basically, apparently there's like an unknown timer where eventually it just stops. So they're not true immortals if you want to get to the nitty and gritty. But in the same way, vampires are also not true immortals because you can kill them over right away. So there is always going to be, I think, a limit, which is a good thing to discuss. There should be some limitations on your immortality. Otherwise, you've just made a god.
But I think usually gods end up being able to be killed in these instances.
It's probably just because we can't fathom anything being truly immortal. It would just terrify us. Our little human puny brains could not handle that.
It's funny, the more I've written, like my main character is over 4,000 years old. Now, having lived with her so long in my head, I am now looking at the world in a very different way through the potential of being that old, which honestly in the great scheme of the world is pretty young still.
I had a similar thing happen. Half my book is written from Lily's perspective. She is my vampire. The other half is written from Gabe's perspective. And well, if anyone couldn't figure it out, that's a guy. So my first book, that was one of my biggest things, is like, okay, I realize there's always going to be the one-off, but for the most part, men and women do think traditionally very differently. You can argue about why, but traditionally they do. And I was like, okay, how do I make sure I'm presenting Gabe in a way that sounds like a guy? It doesn't have to sound like every guy, but it has to sound like a guy. And recently, after doing the panel on masculinity and then also watching a lot of like guy coded fiction, like I was watching Jaws, and I'm currently reading I Am Legend and I'm definitely noticing I have more empathy for my male friends lately. And it's not to say I didn't care about them or anything like that, but I'm having an easier time communicating with them and understanding a little bit of what they're going through. And I think the same can be said when you are writing an immortal character, because you cannot experience that, but you have to sit there and go, okay, if I had sat there, for example, and watched an entire country starve and then watched my husband be brutally murdered by my family, and I had to sit here for 100 years and deal with that, what would that do to my psychology?
It's interesting that whole line of exploration, because we can't know, us mere mortals, really. We can only think and explore and research and read and then imagine and write down what we think. I love watching portrayals of immortality in fiction. I like to see what people do with it. I like to see the questions that people ask and try to answer.
And sometimes it's a little bit more serious, like The Old Guard, where you've got a band trying to basically even the odds because they know they can go into precarious situations like a hostage or whatever and make it out unscathed and probably tip that scale. But then you've got something else like our next movie, which is a little bit sweeter with Tuck Everlasting.
I'm going to see the world. Every speck of it. Heck, I may even find some new continents or something. I mean, I've been to a lot of places, but the world is huge.
Jesse, Tuck, what are you doing?
What does it look like? Woo! joshing me.
I wish I were.
So you're afraid you'll drown, right? Swallow too much water, sink to the bottom, and die.
Thank you for putting it so vividly. And yes, considering I'd sink like a rock, drowning is a fair concern.
Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to enjoy this all by myself.
I'm just gonna put it out there because we just talked about the whole male to female dichotomy thing, and take out the immortality. And I love that he is such a damn boy about this, and it's kind of adorable, but at the same time, you kind of want to like punch him, like, dude, couldn't you have at least like waded over to the edge of the water and been like, here, I'll help you? No, you have to needle her and ask her to dive in when she's scared. And it's like, yes, you push her out of her comfort limits, and that's cute. But
yeah, I wouldn't have jumped in if I were her. It's really interesting how he because he has no fear of death, completely outlines the exact thing of drowning.
Thank you for summing that up.
Which to him is an abstract concept.
And that's, I think, what I like about this scene is it's just showing like how carefree he is about the topic. When she's like, yes, I am concerned about that. Thank you, asshole.
Yeah.
I also do want to say just real quick, and this isn't 100% on topic, but this is something I will give the movie. I read the book as a kid, and even as a kid, I found it so creepy because in the book, I think she's like 10. He's like a teenager, and I found it so creepy and uncomfortable. He's like, oh, wait till you're like my age and drink the water, and then we can get married. It's like, how do you know you'll be compatible, asshole?
Yeah.
I don't want to call it grooming. It's just creepy.
It's creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least in the movie, she's older.
It gave it room to breathe so that they could have this little interaction, and they could show, yes, these two people can care about each other, but they're going to have a big gap to deal with. And it's not the age gap. Ha ha ha. People are going to comment it. It's a mental gap. It's a very big difference in their experiences and how they go through the world.
I do think it's a lovely film. There's a sweetness to it that you don't often find in films that deal with the topic. I mean, it's a family film. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's going to be less blood and guts and gore. I love how it deals with the topic in sort of a gentle way.
It's lighthearted, and it's also sweet in the fact that they are doing so much to hide this dream because they don't want someone else to unwittingly walk into their fate. Whereas the last movie, we have this comparison of no one gets a choice in the matter. So she's just kind of cavalier about it, like, deal. She really doesn't have much empathy for the situation, even though she does understand it. And these guys, I think because they have the choice of empathy to an extent, are showcasing it in droves. They are trying so hard to make sure, like, hey, let's not let anyone else walk into this by mistake.
It's really interesting between those two films, the way the immortals in the Old Guard interact with the world compared to the way that the Tuck family interact with the world, you know, or don't actually interact with the world.
Yeah, because they're both kind of isolated. I hadn't thought about that until you just said it, but they are both, in a very large sense, very isolated intentionally. And maybe that comes down to, I don't want to watch everyone around me die.
Yeah, there's that.
Much less the exposure of safety.
I mean, Tuck is set back in time as well. There's that. But there's being immortal in the modern world brings its whole set of problems. How does someone get away with looking the same on security cameras and pictures? And do you have social media? I don't even know how many times a day my image is probably captured, you know?
Right. Little Big Brother, sure.
Yeah, I think the Old Guard deals with that a little bit, maybe in the second film more. How do you deal with the fact that this is an individual that over time, everyone else around them is going to age, but they don't? And how do you deal with that without taking that individual and isolating them? How does an immortal live in the world?
So you and I both have different ways of tackling this. Yours has magic / immortal friends, which kind of gives her a sense of society. Mine has a little bit of that, but she has managed to isolate herself by disagreeing with their laws. And so she does kind of the Fight Club version of single serving friends, where she's like, I'm going to have clients and I'll have clients for my PI business. And it's a one-time thing. I get to interact with a human though, and it's something. So yeah, you have to pick your poison. It's either you interact with your own kind or you have very short-term interactions so that you don't get caught. What does that do to the brain? The fact that you can't have a meaningful relationship with someone that is aging and you're only with people that are in the same experience, because living in your own bubble is never healthy. And this would be a very unique bubble.
A lot of the vampire fiction I see and I read reviews of or read synopses of really have the vampire, the immortal in their own tribe. the
Mhm.
clans or clubs or schools or
Right.
covens or, even in films. Like there's so many vampire films where the vampires are in a coven or with their own little gang. And I think it's like what you said. The reason is because it's very difficult. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm actually doing this now in my second book. If people don't know my books, every other chapter is ancient history and modern times. So in the ancient storyline, I thought, what the hell? It's historical fantasy. I'm going to bring a real character into it, and I'm going to see what happens with the friendship between an immortal and immortal. It's an interesting, again, really fascinating exploration. It's something that I love.
I have a similar thing. There's this part in book 2, towards the end, Gabe is discussing things with a vampire lord, and he's talking about how you're so young, you don't know anything. And this, older vampire is saying, I've seen empires fall and crumble and da. And Gabe's like, yeah, I still can read a history book, dude. It is that question of like, what is the difference between living history and reading it? Like, is there a layer where you do understand things more intricately, or does that actually cause a worse filter because you're applying too much of your own bias? Where does that line get drawn? And of course, it's going to be different from person to person. It just gets so convoluted in such a beautiful way, really. We're going through a very unique time in history. I'm not going to get into too much of the politics of it, but with the recent violence upticks and we're going through a very unique time in history that I never thought I'd see. And it's given me an appreciation for all the people who had to see, like, and I'm not making comparisons on people before anyone starts commenting. Don't give me shit. And if you do, just know I pin trolls to the top for fun. This recent assassination has made me wonder how people felt during like the JFK assassination, the MLK assassination, Abraham Lincoln, all that stuff. It's like, God, like without all the layers of social media, is this what they felt like? This is such a strange experience to have as a world. Like, what the bleep? And I can only imagine what you'd feel like if you'd seen that firsthand and then you saw this. What would that even do to your head?
I think it's probably, you probably go, oh, here we go again type of thing,
Yeah.
History does tend to repeat itself time and time again. And for some reason, mankind doesn't seem to learn from the past. It's really interesting. And it's sort of an endless pool of exploration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of brings us to Byzantium.
I didn't give you my story. I've been betrayed into this.
You can leave anytime you like. So when did Clara come back for you?
When I was 16.
And what did she do in the meantime?
She's never talked about it.
Really?
She says she can't recall, but I expect she's lying. Lying is a way of life to her. But I was raised in an orphanage where I was taught to tell the truth.
Are there others like you?
I've never met one. And Clara never speaks of any. I think we're the only two who still endure.
How often do you feed?
I'd rather not talk about it. Thank you.
That's the distasteful part of being an immortal, isn't it?
If you don't believe a word I say, why this pretense?
Helena, how can you be 2 centuries old? By what miracle of science?
You see, that's the tricky thing. Because it's only over time that I can prove it. 30, maybe 40 years from now, when you're pruning roses from your wheelchair, I'll stroll by your garden gate and say, "Hello, Morag." And nothing will have changed. I am 16 forever. And you'll realize this. And it will hurt your heart. And I'll say, "May peace be with you." And I'll help you with the pain.
Why don't you do it now? I'm not strong. You could overpower me.
You're not ready.
I have not seen the whole film, so the context here sounds like she was outed as a vampire, and she's coming to this person to try and kind of clarify some pieces.
She writes her history and throws it into the wind. But somebody being concerned at this possibly mentally ill young woman has given these pages to the school counselor. Those pages were never intended to be read by anyone. I love that clip. It's so creepy and spooky and also sad at the same time.
Kind of almost interview with the vampire, right? Which I didn't want to use because it's just been so rehashed as a vampire film, and for good reason, but there are other territories to talk. It does remind me a lot of that format of the interview with an immortal being, and how do you convince the other person? Do you even want to convince the other person? Do you want them to believe in this? Which is kind of a through line with Tuck Everlasting as well. They're like, ooh, do we really want her to understand that we can live forever? Because that can bring up a whole host of negative nonsense we don't necessarily need.
And I suppose in today's world, nobody would believe you. You know,
yeah,
that is the character Saoirse Ronan's playing is absolutely right. The only way to prove it is by time.
Well, in old times, you wouldn't, to an extent, if you were in the right area, because, you know, then you just be accused of witchcraft. So you wouldn't want to prove it, which is something they address in the Old Guard quite well, actually. Then you get to, I'd say probably the 90s, and you could potentially prove it then because photos and things like that. You can only dismiss it as, oh, I look just like my great, whatever ancestor so many times. But then you get to now where we've got AI and we've got digital enhancements and data. You could sit there and claim you're this, and this person might still think you're a lunatic with all the evidence because there's a fair chance that you could have made this to prove your case.
It's kind of gone in the favor, I think, of immortals if they're out there, because if they're hiding anyway, which you would have to hide. You'd be a lab rat. You'd totally be a lab rat.
Humanity is not wholly altruistic. There are altruistic people within it, but we are not a wholly altruistic species.
Even if like the fountain of youth was discovered, I can't. I hope it doesn't exist and it never will be, because I can just see it going horribly wrong, and the worst people getting a hold of it. If
the wrong people get a hold of it, well, they're going to be sitting there. Basically, they'd make it so that, you know, being young forever is a privilege. What is that movie? I'm trying to remember. It's In Time. Which is another really good exploration of immortality now that I think of it.
I bet you we could have come up with a whole bunch more.
Oh, but that one's an interesting turn just because it's science fiction. Normally, immortality lands in the magic system. Like we're looking at Old Guard, Tuck Everlasting, Byzantium. All of these are, to some extent, magic, right? But In Time is very much we have found a way to make time money. Therefore, if you have more money, you live longer. It's like, damn, that's such a visceral, like, ugh. So yeah, it's such a unique trope. You can be so versatile with it. I hadn't even thought of that movie we were talking. Really, all of this comes down to, and this is the through line I've heard for you, and it's definitely the through line I think of when writing immortal characters. You have to consider a few factors. Number one, of course, is their natural personality. Number two, what were they raised in? What was their culture? Because I don't care what you say, culture does matter. What has this person seen either again and again or even just one time? It's kind of the through line I'm hearing is these three main factors. Is there anything you think you would add to that?
I would add to that only how do they become immortal, because that's very different. Old Guard, they just
there's no choice.
Suddenly they're immortal. In vampire fiction, there's basically two different kinds of vampires. There's the born a vampire or the made a vampire.
And then it branches even there. It's the people who had choice in the matter and the people who were not given a choice.
I play with the choice. Is it really a choice if you're dying? So that's traumatic or not traumatic in and of itself. So even the way that you become immortal, were you born immortal? Are you just forever immortal? That's a very different thing than being turned immortal through a traumatic event.
True.
So I would add that into the mix of the psyche of the character. Like we said, it's a very vast and wide pool of ideas and thought experience and possible problems and solutions to work with. One of the best, in my opinion.
One thing I always like to ask a guest is if you had a brand new writer, vampire, science fiction, whatever, but they are sitting down, they're trying to write a character that is immortal in some aspect or other. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to hopefully cut through all the weird bullshit they're going to find online or the confusing articles that are going to go against you? What is the one thing that you'd say, I wish I'd known this when I started?
Well, I suppose I start with character, no matter what kind of character I'm writing. I start with character. And so if you're looking to write an immortal character, I suppose the first question I would ask was, what does being immortal mean to that character in that character's world? Because that's going to give you a huge blooming path which to explore. It's all going to start there.
Well, as always, it is delightful to talk to you, my darling. You're always fun.
You as well. You as well.
Where
Thank you.
can people find your first book and very soon your second book?
The best place to find everything is on my website, ashlingwilder.com.
Thank you again to my guest, fellow vampire writer, Aisling Wilder. The link for her website and fabulous books will be down below. But I'd like to turn the conversation over to you. What comes to your mind when you think of immortality? What kind of characters inspire you, and which ones kind of annoy you? As I announced in my previous video, I did put the entire Blood Herring Chronicles up on backer kit for the pre-order of Blood Vengeance. And we hit our goal really fast. I was kind of shocked, and I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you. Because of your amazing work following the series and supporting me, I am now able to go ahead and release stretch goals. Currently, because of all your hard work, everybody is getting a free digitally signed ebook of The Vampire's Cold Case. This is a prequel to the Blood Herring trilogy, and the special edition's e-signed copy will never be available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or any large retailer. However, I want to go a little further. My next stretch goal is 2,500. At this level, every single backer, regardless of level, will get a free audiobook version of that same special edition ebook. And you can also get bonus rewards by backing my cross-collab project with Adventure Cats by Becca Lee Gardner. This is an adorable choose-your-own adventure mixed with D&D and cats. I mean, come on, look at this cover and tell me it's not the cutest thing you've ever seen. By backing both kits, regardless of level, you'll get a free ebook from each of us. And stay tuned to the channel because I will be having Becca Lee on to talk about some really fun characters. And if you're still kind of debating if you want to back the Blood Herring Chronicles, you can also back the Anthology of the Damned Twisted Yuletide. This is that creepy Christmas collection we talked about last video with my guest Christopher D. Schmitz. Backing his kit will get you a special edition e-signed copy of Blood Herring. All the links to this and of course Aisling's work will be down below. Thank you so much and happy reading.